.NET Core is cross-platform, but we spend most of our time on this channel talking about Windows. Let's take a look at Linux today.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Asp.Net Monsters. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at what it's like to develop applications on Linux.
Yeah, so this is just getting started doing .NET Core on Linux. So what I have here is a fresh install of Ubuntu. I'm running version 18.04. That's the latest long-term stable release of Ubuntu at the time of this recording. And there is a newer current release, but I really like this one because it's called Bionic Beaver and is possibly the best ever software name that I've ever come across. Okay, so this is, as I said, this is a fresh install. There is no .NET on here. If I type .NET, it tells me .NET cannot be found. And it actually recommends that I could install it using Snap, which is a registry of applications that you can install. It's kind of like a script that will go and install the .NET SDK for us. We're actually not going to do that. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. We'll look at other ways to install the .NET SDK. What we're going to do today is just follow the steps that Microsoft outlines in the documentation. So if I just say .NET SDK, query for the .NET SDK, recognizes I'm on Linux here. I say I want to install .NET Core. I'll select the version of Ubuntu that I'm actually running here, and we're just going to follow these instructions. So there's a few steps involved. The way we actually install the .NET SDK here is through the apt registry, package registry. There's a couple things we have to do first. We have to register where Microsoft hosts their versions of .NET. So we'll just copy these and we'll run them. I believe, copy the...
You should totally use the copy button.
Yeah, and run them both at once as long as they both succeed. And we'll paste that in. Okay, so let's set up that package registry, and now we just need to go and make sure that we have everything up to date. We already have that, so sudo. I'm going to do these individually. So we do an update just to make sure that we've got the latest of everything from all our different package sources. And then there is one dependency here that we need to install. I'm actually not sure why we need to do an update again, but it's okay. We'll do it again just to be safe. And now finally we install the .NET SDK. Yes, I want to install this.
So I think maybe that apt transport SSL is a package that adds more abilities to apt, allowing it to get stuff off of eMirror. So probably the first time you run update, it's not able to go and get the new Microsoft stuff, and then the second one it is.
That makes sense. Okay, it tells me that, yeah, that was pretty fast. Welcome to .NET Core, so I should be able to do .NET here. And we got it. Ooh. .NET -help. Gives me some ideas of how I can get started. And what we're going to do here, I'm going to create a new folder. We'll call it Hello World, because how else do you get started with any programming language? And in here, it's an empty folder for now. I'm going to do .NET new, and that gives me some options for all the different types of applications that I can create with .NET, which is a little bit overwhelming. We're just going to start with the very simplest possibility there, which is a console app. So we're just going to say .NET new console. Now that created a few different things for me here. Let's go take a look at that in the file manager, just so we can take a look at those files. So we're in the Hello World folder. There's a project file and a program.cs. The one that we're interested in editing here is the program.cs file. So I'm just going to open that with my text editor. You can see that it's just a simple program class with a main method. So that's the entry point. When we run the application, it's just going to output hello world to the console. The other file here is a CS project file. And if you're not familiar with .NET Core, that's just a file that tells us about what versions of the SDK, what version of the framework this is running. It's a NET Core app 3.1. I mean, it's using the 3.1 version of the framework. And then other potential settings in here if we're referencing other packages. But for now, it's very straightforward, and we don't actually need to edit this file. Let's go see if we can run this, and then we'll just make some simple changes to it. And just see how the app runs. Okay, so it says hello world. And of course we could come in here and change this. Run it again. It recompiles it and runs it for me on Linux. And we could do some simple, read from the console as well. So we could say equals console.read line. And before that, some instructions. And then here we'll output that. We'll use string interpolation to do that. Doing it without any IntelliSense whatsoever, so hopefully I get this all right. And we'll try running that again. Dave. Hello world, Dave. There we go. Mm-hmm. That is getting started with .NET Core on Linux using nothing but the command line and a simple text editor.
Looks good.
Okay, so at the beginning of the episode, I mentioned that there are some other ways to install the .NET SDK. One of those is through this software store kind of thing that is going on in Ubuntu here, where I could actually search for .NET. And it will bring up the .NET SDK for me here. And this, I believe, this is all going through that Snap store that I mentioned at the beginning, where you could install it through the Snap command line. This works, but the problem is it installs it in a Snap folder. So it's not like the default way that Microsoft would expect it to be installed, and it doesn't create the alias properly for you for .NET, so you end up having to create a global alias on your own for the .NET SDKs. So just be aware if you choose to do it this way that it's a little bit different than what you might see in the documentation, and that it seems that you do end up having to create the aliases yourself. So it just it's not really as smooth as I'd like it to be, so that's why I was kind of avoiding installing it that way.
Makes sense.
So one other tip that I wanted to bring up here is that I'm typically a Windows developer, which is probably obvious as you see me clumsy in my way through Linux here. But what I'm doing, I'm running this through Hyper-V, and I don't know when this happened in Hyper-V exactly, but if I pull over the Hyper-V manager here, if you go to create a new, so if I just wanted to create a new virtual machine, there's this quick create option that actually brings up a list of different operating systems here. I could create a Windows 10 dev environment. I could do, and the Ubuntu options are just in here already.
Cool.
And I just hit create virtual machine, and everything worked first try. Like, it was super smooth. And when I go to connect to it as well, there's now an option to use all my screens when I have multiple monitors at full resolution. So everything just works really smoothly. And when I'm working on this virtual machine, I honestly can't tell anymore that it's a virtual machine. It's just that smooth.
Nice.
In the past, I know I've tried to do this, and it used to be pretty clumsy, and it's just not anymore. So if you're curious to give Linux a try, it's super easy to do that if you have Hyper-V installed on your Windows machine.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this Linux-based episode of the Asp.Net Monsters. Feel free to add our application to your message of the day, also upvote us and share us and all those other good things on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.